IFC goes back to 1932, when my mother met a British actor, Ivan Menzies, who was very popular in Australia. And she learnt from him the basis of this work. But it wasn't called IFC, and it wasn't called MRA. It was called the Oxford Group in 1932, and it was only in 1938 that Frank Bookman launched the new name of Moral Rearmament. So my mother was on the professional and film stage acting, and she started her own theatre. And during the last war, MRA in different countries produced a sort of handbook. And the theme of it was sound homes, teamwork in industry, and the United Nation. And Australia, we produced our own version of that. And also, Ivan Menzies and my mother produced a musical review based on this book. And our Prime Minister, John Curtin, who was a very respected man leading us during the war, he saw it and arranged. He said he was so impressed by the encouragement to morale that he wanted all of the Parliament of Australia to see it. So he arranged for both Houses of Parliament to be adjourned so that it could be shown in the Parliament House dining room. So that was an amazing thing. Now, when he saw it in Sydney in my mother's theatre in about 1941, 42. So I was about 14. So you could say the first work I did with MRA was sweeping the auditorium to make sure it was clean for the Prime Minister. So that was my personal introduction to moral rearmament. Now, it's impossible to put 70 years into 20 minutes, so I'll just have to touch on some highlights. And Dahlia referred to my time in Indonesia. I've been in Indonesia many times between 1956 and later. And in Baguio in the Philippines, we had one of the first Asian assemblies for MRA in 1957. And another colleague, a Maori from New Zealand, Ray Jones, and I went to Indonesia to invite people to this conference. And one of our hosts there was a well-known radio commentator, Sunato, and he had arranged for the weekly film show that the President Sukarno had in Merdeka Palace every Friday night with all the generals and the cabinet. And he arranged for the MRA film Freedom to be shown. So that was an extraordinary experience. I don't think President Sukarno liked all of the views expressed in Freedom, but anyway, I had the opportunity of presenting to him an official invitation to a conference at Mackinac for what was then known as the Third World. That is not the communist world or the Western world, but many of the countries of Africa and other countries. And so he accepted this and handed it to his aide and retired. I didn't have a conversation with him, but at least he knew what moral rearmament was about. There's so many things that one could talk of. You mentioned the two mayors of the cities that were bombed by the atom bomb, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And I remember going with them in a boat on Lake Geneva while I interviewed them for an article I later wrote. And it was extraordinary to think that these men, just a few years before, had been through that horrific experience. And they were very clear that it would never happen again, and that what a tragedy it was. So they were part of a big Japanese delegation, a charter plane. And the interesting thing was it was a Philippine airline charter plane that brought them to Co, about 60. They were governors and mayors and trade union officials and so on. And in a sense, it was one of the first major occasions when Japanese came abroad and in a sense were sort of welcomed back into the international family. And they were remarkable men. And then in the conferences we had in Baguio in the Philippines, there were some dramatic reconciliations between the Japanese and Koreans, because as you may know, during the occupation of Korea by Japan, they were not allowed to speak their own language even. And the speaker of the Japanese parliament who came to the Baguio conference apologized officially to all the Koreans and others who had been so affected by the war. And similar occasions with Indonesians and some Dutch who were there, where apologies and reconciliations were dramatically affected. So that was another thing I was part of. There were four of us young Australians, sort of four musketeers. There was Gordon Wise, who some of you know, Jim Coulter, and Stan Shepherd, and myself. I was the youngest. And we spent many, many months working in Indonesia and Vietnam and Laos and Thailand and Cambodia and Philippines, Japan and so on. India is another story because that's where I've spent most of my life with MRA, and that we can touch on too. But people may also have some questions. It's impossible to put 70 years into 20 minutes, but those are a few highlights. India, I am very dearly fond of. My two daughters, Sarah and Ali, were born in Bombay, and Janet and I, as was mentioned, were invited by Rajmohan in 1960 to come and help with the march across the nation, which you will have all read about, or some may have taken part in, I don't know. But so those years in India are very precious, and I'm very delighted that my two daughters are so thrilled to claim that they were born in Bombay. And we went back a few years ago, and I was able to show them the house in which they were born, and that was wonderful. I mean, there are so many things. I was thinking, well, what is really the important thing in MRA? And I thought there are three things. One is to have a vision. You probably know the ancient saying that people who have no vision perish. The other is we work as a team. I mean, one of Frank Bookman's greatest qualities, I think, was building teams of people who could work together. People who were of quite different backgrounds, different political points of view, different religions. And that is a difficult thing to do. And he has done really a miraculous task. And the other thing was change starting with yourself. And that's why I'm so pleased that it is now called Initiatives of Change, because anybody, anywhere, wherever they are, can take an initiative to change something that is wrong, starting with themselves. I think it's a grand concept. And well, that's another point. I made a few notes, but I don't want to bore you. One interesting experience I had was U Nu, who was the famous leader of Burma, now Myanmar. He was coming to the MRA conference in Panchgani, and Rajmohan had asked if I would meet him in Bombay and arrange his trip. So I went and saw the head of the railways in Bombay and explained who U Nu was and so on. And they said, oh, they would lay on a special dining car and look after him well. So apparently they produced a beautiful white linen tablecloth dining car for U Nu to travel to Pune on his way to Panchgani. And he said, apparently he said that he loved the chicken curry that they produced. So I mentioned to R.D. Mathur that I thought that that is something that he would probably enjoy at Panchgani. And so they produced at Panchgani a wonderful chicken curry, and U Nu graciously declined it because he said, well, no, this chicken has been killed for me. The one on the railways was just there anyway. So that is one aspect of the Buddhist attitudes. That's U Nu. Well, there are so many things. One of the first visitors to the MRA, the new MRA Centre in Melbourne, Amar, some of you have been there. It's a gracious, lovely old home. And Dr. Tirta Winata, who is the Indonesian ambassador, you'll find his name is, if not the first, one of the first signatures in the visitors book. And he invited us to come to Indonesia. And I spent my first few days in Indonesia with him in his lovely hill resort at Puncak. And that was my introduction to Indonesia. Goodness me, so many things. I was also part of a group of three of us who came to help Archie Mackenzie. Some of you will remember Archie Mackenzie, a British diplomat, and he was the ambassador in Bangkok. And we had there in I think it was 1954, I think it was the first major MRA assembly in Asia. And I was one of those who helped. That is when we met and got to know many senior Buddhist monks. And one of them had said to me and my colleagues, we were staying on after the conference to help follow up. And they said, if you ever need accommodation, please come and stay with us. So afterwards, the hotel bills were getting a bit high. So the three of us, Olga Anderson from Norway and Alex Kraft, who's the son of the foreign minister of Denmark, and I went to the monastery, the biggest one in Bangkok, Wat Mahathat, and said, look, may we accept your kind invitation? And by all means. So we were assigned to one of the monks who had a suite of rooms. And for the next 3 or 4 weeks while we were working in Bangkok, we lived in this monastery as part of the family, which was a wonderful experience. I think you must be getting tired of me now. Does anyone have any questions that, what have I forgotten?
So, yeah, thank you, Chris. So very memorable, lots of memorable moments. Before we have a question, we can have a quiet time to reflect what Chris has been experiencing, which is not easy, but Chris really eager to share to us. So probably we have a reflection time.
Work was inviting people, including leaders, especially leaders, to some of the conferences and assemblies we had. And in the magic of the atmosphere that IOC can create, things happen to them. And I think it may be that we're meant to have more occasions, more conferences, whatever you want to call them, that we can invite people to. It's sad that because of the virus problem that CO will not be happening this year. That'll be a great loss, I think, for our world situation. We had nothing to offer or to give. We would, I mean, for instance, in Indonesia, we got to know the head of police, General Sukanto, and we would meet him regularly, with nothing special in mind, just to report to him about developments were happening with MRA in the world. And he commissioned, he assigned one of his commissioners of police, Sumasono, to come to Mackinac as part of the delegation that we were organizing. So it also gives a focus. I don't know, it's a big question, the money question and how to reach the leaders, your question, are very, very important. I really don't know how to answer it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll butt in. You gave a clue that you met the Indonesian ambassador in Melbourne and he invited you to Indonesia.
Yes.
And presumably you followed various leads from there. I mean, from there
yes,
to
yes.
How did you
Yes.
meet the president? How did that work out?
Well, the ambassador who signed the book in Amar, I think was probably a result of colleagues in Canberra getting to know the diplomatic corps, and Dr. Teto Anata became a very good friend. Yeah.
Interesting question. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Now we have Angie. Please, time is yours to have a question.
Thank you, Rera. Hi, Chris. I'm Anggi.
Hello.
I'm Indonesian who study in Melbourne now. It's quite cold. I'm still
Wonderful.
adapting the weather.
Good.
Thank you for sharing. So my question is from the 3 points that you mentioned from MRA. Have you met the biggest challenge in building team from your past experience, and how did you cope with it?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. How did I?
Did you have met biggest challenge in building team, and how did you cope with it?
Just trying to be good guests in the country, I think. We made many friends. I made a very good friend with, I don't think he's alive at the moment, Ario Pirano. And we went together to Co. And he was, we had a long talk with Frank Bookman. And I think Frank Bookman learned that he was a Christian. And Frank said to me, "You must take him to meet the Pope." I thought, well, that's all very well to say that. However, we did go to Rome, and while we didn't meet the Pope, we went to his summer holiday place where he gave an address from the balcony. So I was able to say we did see him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Now we will have a question from Godluck.
Yeah.
Brother Godluck, please, time is yours.
Who's that?
Thank you very
Ah.
much. Thank you,
Oh,
Chris,
yeah.
for sharing your lived experience with us.
I can see you. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your lived experience with us.
There's one thing I didn't mention, and perhaps I could now. When I was a teenager, about 12 or 13, I suffered rheumatic fever. And in those days, without the biotics that we have now, it was a very difficult thing. There was no cure for it other than total rest for weeks on end. And I was given a book, a little book called Daily Light. And it had, on each day of the year, it had readings from the Bible and other holy books. And I thought, I wonder what it says for my birthday. So I looked up my birthday, and there was a quote from the old prophet Ezekiel, and it said, "A new heart I will give you. I will take away the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh, and you will learn to walk in the ways of the Lord." And I thought, goodness gracious, what an extraordinary thing, because that's just what I needed, a new heart, because the effect of rheumatic fever was on the valves of your heart. And my mother had been told by the specialist that I would probably spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Well, I didn't think much of that. I don't know, maybe it was a wrong advice from the doctor or not. But in my mind, at that moment, I thought to myself, if that is true, if I follow in the steps of the Lord, that I will get a new heart, that's good enough for me. And every time in the years since then, many years since then, I've ever been tempted to wish for a career or a lot of money or something one would like to have, I've always gone back to that, which was, in a sense, in my own spirit, I think, a bit of a contract that I've tried to follow. And now, at 91, nobody can explain why I'm still here. I've had bypass surgery and a new valve, but I'm as fit as a fiddle.
Thank you, Chris. If I might continue with my question was, the world's divides continue to be widened because world leaders are not responding in a way that we can be together, in a way that we can care, in a way that we can share the little that we have with each other. Now that the COVID-19 arrived, it's a very sad time, but also with that sad time also come the responsibility where we see leaders from all the oppositions and those in government working hand in hand, local government and national government all working together. And we have seen also the nurses at the front line caring for everybody. The response has so far been incredible that we have not left anyone behind. Whether there are risks, we have seen the humanity and the fact that we can do what we can together as a human being. My question is, how can we maintain this? How can we make this a continual proposition that we can actually preach to the leaders that we can control the device and we can be one?
I think the world is going to be very different after this. And I think a lot of the things we have had to learn we will continue. Yes, it's an extraordinary situation and has brought out the best in some of our leaders. Certainly in our country, it has also brought them together, where people of different political parties are almost forced to come together and work together to find solutions.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And next question comes from Yusuf Sulaiman. Yusuf Sulaiman.
Okay.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, if you can
Yes.
repeat the 3 points you mentioned at the beginning. The 3 basics of what was then moral rearmament and what is now initiatives of change.
Yes.
That would be fantastic, because I think we need that blueprint to go forward. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for, at this time, making your experience available.
Yes. Now the 3 points. I think I had several 3 points.
I just remember one, the first one.
Yes.
I just remember the first one is to have a vision. We work as a team. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, those 3 points. Yes, that's right.
Yes, that's 3 points. Yeah.
Yes,
Maybe you
that's
can.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that was to have a vision, to work as a team, and to start with yourself in changing or taking initiatives where you see something wrong. I think those are the 3 points you refer to. And I think MRA has always had a vision. Some people have thought it's quite unrealistic. It's a bit airy-fairy. But if you don't have a vision, as the wise men say, you perish.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And who else? Okay. Okay, enough. Yusuf. Maybe Veronica will explain for that 3 minds from your question. So yeah, I'm sorry. We have Amil. Please, Amil. Time is yours. Where's Amil? Amil is supposed to be for Yusuf. I'm sorry. Yeah, Amil. Raise your hand. Time is yours, Amil. Where is Amil? Or Iman first? Where is Iman? Iman having a question.
Here I am.
Iman.
Thank you. Hi, this is Iman
Hello,
from
Iman.
Syria.
After Iman will be go first, Amil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, because what you said have brought hope at this current time, at this first of all, after experiencing the war in Syria, and also during this time, the Corona time. And my question, I noticed that the conviction, passion, vision, and inner work on inner change have been great motivation and action for MRA groups. My question is, what do you think now the new generation lack in order to be, or in order to follow the steps? What do we need to to have in order to be the change and to follow these steps? Thank you.
Yes, I'm not very good at giving advice. Of course, the younger generation are going to have to do the job, aren't they? Some of you are going to be the people to do it. No, I don't. I think so often of your country and pray for it and its neighbors, and the sadness that has fallen on it. Yes, I'm really, I don't have an answer for you, I'm afraid.
It's okay. Thank you. Thank you. It's really very precious what you have said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Iman. So we have Amil. Amil will have a time to give a question to Chris. Amil, please, your time. Where is Amil? Okay.
I see he's speaking, but we cannot hear him.
Okay, yeah, Amil, please.
No. Type in there.
Dalia, I think you need to turn on his microphone. Ramiel, turn on your microphone.
Oh yeah, could you please, Olga? Olga is technical host actually.
Yes,
So
thank you so much. But his microphone seems to be on, but we cannot hear him. That's.
Oh, okay. Or Amil, you can put the question on the chat, and probably we can share to Chris. So we have as well question from because there's lots of question. Oh yeah, from Suni Maoyang. Suni Maoyang have a question, Chris. What helped you spiritually to keep on going with the work of IOC? That's the question.
What was that question again?
What helped you spiritually to keep on going with the work of IOC?
Yeah. One thing as I get older, I have been thrilled and impressed to see so many individuals taking initiative in different parts of the world and in different parts of our society. In previous days, we were much more centralized. I mean, for instance, we all poured in to give our best at but nothing else could happen in the world at the same time. Now we seem to have people taking initiatives simultaneously in different situations, different countries, different social situations, and I'm very inspired by that. And I just know from my own personal experience, I often think to myself, how on earth did Bookman do it? How did he build a team of people, multicultural, multi-religious, who can work together and have a vision for their own country and for the world? I mean, I wouldn't know how to begin, but he did begin in a very small way, as you all know the story. And somehow I think individuals can emulate that, and we can all do more than we perhaps think we're capable of.
Well, I think you heard it, but yeah.
I mean, when we think of it, it is very simple, isn't it? You decide to put right things that are wrong in your own life. You get honest about yourself. You listen daily for the inner voice. You have the courage to carry out what you feel you're meant to do, and you work with others who are doing the same thing. It's not rocket science.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Now we have a Niketu uncle will say something. Few words.
Okay. Can I, Chris? Can you hear
Niketu,
me?
hello.
Hey,
I was thinking of you. You remember the day we went to visit Madame Aung San in her home?
indeed, University Avenue.
The mother, that's right.
That's
the
right.
mother of Aung San Suu Kyi.
That's right. And
Yes,
before
yes.
that, we tried to meet Roland Toon, Chan Toon,
Yeah.
and he
Oh,
came.
what
That's
adventures
right.
we've all been part of.
That's right. It's wonderful to see you, Chris. You look as young as you did last time I saw in Bendigo, and before that in Bombay, I think. And I lived with you and Janet when you were in Calcutta.
Yes, yes.
And then I lived with you in Kerala, Ingledeen, opposite.
Yes, Ingledeen, yes, in
Ingledeen,
Trivandrum.
Kerala. Yes.
Yes.
With
yes.
Stan Shepherd, Janet Mace.
Yes, that's right.
And all the others.
Yes.
And Stan and Aileen. And
Yes.
I think of the times when you were such, your goodness was so complete, and your friendship was so complete, and I felt your life was so convincing. That's what I want to pay tribute to, and that we got from all of you from Australia. I see many of you here, from Europe, from the Americas and North America, who came to work with us in India. The situations in which you worked, a lot of things have changed in India now, but at that time it was quite tough. I'm sure you found the goings were very tough, but you were always so convincing in living out your message. You didn't say much, but the way you treated us and your friendship. And I remember that one problem that often happened to you was people were fond of picking your pockets in Bombay.
Yes, I did lose a little.
I think you got that treatment more than others. But what I'm thinking is what Dalai Lama said. He always said this, I sense, at the end of his speech or part of his international speeches. He would say, the world needs warm-heartedness. The world needs a warm heart.
Yes.
And
yes.
I find that every speech he brings it in. And that came from the completeness of his life. And then I'm also thinking of IOC and what we try to do all over the world. And the verse in the Gita, this is the only verse I know from the Gita. It says, do your duty, leave the rest to God, to Him.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I feel that some people say that's not enough, because when you do your duty, which seems to be so small, it doesn't seem to be doing too much to what is so wrong in the world.
Yeah.
But it comes right down to that. If you do your duty wholeheartedly, properly, completely, the rest he knows how to use it. And I feel that for me, I experienced that, received from you and others. I had the privilege of working with. So wonderful to see you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Niketu uncle. So we have a question, last question from our participant, Chris. This is Amil here, connecting from a former Aboriginal mission settlement in Queensland, Australia. He has a question with communities which have fresh wounds from their recent historical damage, how can they use their lived experience recently as a power hub for change in their process of healing?
Now, I can't see, there's not a picture. Is there a photograph of you?
Emil, picture?
No.
What you need?
I,
Question?
a photo. I can't see who's asking the question, or
Oh,
could you just
Amil has
repeat?
a question that he has a problem with the microphone. So
Ah.
yeah,
Oh, I
Amil has
see.
raising hand. Yeah, Amil has raising hand. Yeah,
Yes.
he has a question with communities. Oh, where should go? You can open the chat. Yeah, he has a question with communities which have fresh wounds from their recent
Yes.
historical damage. How can they use
Yes.
their lived actual experience as a power hub for change in their process of healing? Oh,
I think
good question. Yeah.
one thing we need to do is to listen to each other. And I think one of the great sins in Australia is that we who are not of Aboriginal descent have not learnt to listen. We don't listen. And it's very, I feel it's very sad that that the colony that Captain Cook established has not done its true owners properly. I'm very concerned about that. I think things are changing slowly, very slowly. But I think telling stories and listening to each other is one of the most powerful things we have learned in this generation. I think the South African experience has proved the value of that. I don't know if that specifically answers his question, but I think we just need to listen. The other day, I had an interesting experience. I was at the railway station waiting for the train, and I went into the waiting room. There weren't many people there, but there was an Aboriginal man sitting on a chair about 20 feet away. And I thought, he looks a little lonely. Should I go and speak to him? I thought, no, you don't do that. That's interrupting. And then I couldn't resist. The thought kept coming back to me. So I got up and went over and sat next to him and introduced myself. And we had a brief conversation, and then he got up to leave for his train. And he said words to this effect: we need to listen to each other and talk to each other. Thank you for coming and speaking to me. And that was all, and nothing more than that. I don't think anything will come of it, but I think we need to be take more initiative like that.
May I just say, Rera, that in case Emil is, Chris doesn't know Emil, but he was born in the year of the Rwandan genocide in a Tanzanian refugee camp, and is now a Rwandan Australian working in Cherbourg in the First Nations as a case manager.
Really?
So it's quite.
I'm interested to know that.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been to Cherbourg.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ibu, for explaining. Yeah, probably we have some question left. There's one from Tong Pang. Tong Pang, do you want to give a question to Chris? Where is Tong Pang? Tong Pang want to
turn on your mic.
Yeah, Tong Pang, please turn on your mic. Where is Tongpang? Tongpang from Thailand. Yeah, please. Tongpang. Time is yours. Okay, we will wait for Tongpang. Do you have any question? Others? Any others want to have a question before Tongpang want to talk? No? Okay.
Can I send a greeting to Abai?
To Abai?
Yes,
Yeah.
I hadn't realized you were there with Rotai.
Oh, Rotai. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're here.
Good.
Hello, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you
Hello.
for
We're
what you
here
shared.
at the beginning.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
so
you.
much.
We couldn't do without Rotai.
That's right. You couldn't do without her either.
Thank you.
Just a
I just
little
have a very quick question, Chris.
Yes.
Were people not as difficult in your day as now? Like, you know, the team.
To talk to.
Was it easy to work with the team when in your day?
Well, it's sometimes very difficult to work with some
Was it?
people.
Surprise?
I don't think it's changed at all.
No.
But it is being a team is a powerful thing, isn't it? I think that's a great quality of initiatives of change.
Yeah.
We think in terms of teams. In fact, we almost invented the word team. It's not often used other than sporting meaning, but Frank Bookman always had a team.
Okay. Oh, Chris, Tongpang have a question. Tongpang from Thailand. Tongpang said, "No, I know why IOC still exists till date. Grateful to Chris, all his comrades and present members in IOC. My question is, do the new generation need to worry about anything, according to your life experience as in an IOC elder?"
Worry about anything. Well, I think every generation has to worry a certain amount about the future. I'm quite confident about the present generation. I look at my daughters and my 5 grandsons, and I'm very impressed with the way they go about things. So I think that people use this phrase, the good old times. There weren't any good old times, but there will be some good futures.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, Pak Rob, please.
Chris, what would you say are the most essential qualities of leadership, of a leader?
Well, I think caring about those they lead, and I think there have been examples of that in recent days. And I think a generous attitude, a generous spirit, and also a willingness to take risks, not gambles, risks, initiatives. I think that has been shown by some of our leaders in Australia over these last weeks. I mean, I am so sad about the situations in some countries. I don't know how we can do it better. We have a population of 26 million, and we've had 97 deaths. 97. Some countries wake up every morning with hundreds who died that night. It's so tragic. And not only that, but the population. I mean, I have been locked virtually in my unit for over 6 weeks now. I can go for walks in the gardens outside my unit, but I can't really go outside the premises. And this has been the experience of many of us, and we have felt safe. It's been tough, but we felt safe. I have so much respect for the carers and the nurses and the doctors who put their own lives at risk caring for others. I think that is a tremendous demonstration of the way we ought to live.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Chris might be very tired because it's not easy to try remember all those memories and tips and knowledge. Thank you so much for the time. Before we close this session, is there anything you would like to add, Chris?
Well, thank you for spending the time to listen to an old man.
Thank you so much for your wonderful story sharing. It's really inspiring, and we learn a lot from your past experience.
Thank you.
So time is up, and so everyone, thank you for making time. Before we close this session, would you mind to turn on the video to say thanks to each others?
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris.
Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Garfield.
I can't see you.